All right, if you've been watching the channel recently, you might have seen me trying a couple of day in the life type videos. I have tried to do another one this week and remembered that I just really don't like doing day in the life type videos, so I'm probably going to try and stop attempting to do that. Today I'd like to talk a bit about what I learned in my last marathon training block, the mistakes I made, and how I've taken that and I'm implementing it into the current trail marathon training block, and hopefully it'll be useful or insightful for at least one or two people watching. The race I'm training for at the moment is Saddleworth 10 Res, which is at the beginning of March. I did participate in that race this year and DNF'd, unfortunately because of a kit malfunction, not because of my fitness, which was really frustrating at the time. But on reflecting on the training block, there were a lot of things that I didn't do very well, and I didn't really think through properly at the time. So after that DNF and the crushing disappointment of that DNF, I did have plenty of time to reflect and figure out what I could do better next time, basically. I'd also like to clarify going into this that I'm not like a high level runner or anything. I am wanting to push myself though, and I'm wanting to see how far I can go and how good I can get. So the first point that I've kind of implemented is patience. The plan that I'm putting together and enacting is going to be over the next 10 years. I want to see where I can get myself in 10 years if I am consistent and smart with my training. So part of what I didn't approach correctly was just not really being patient with myself and expecting too much of myself and pushing myself too hard in training, and then kind of hitting walls and not really being able to get the best out of myself because I tried to push myself too hard at the wrong time. This leads into a specific point that I've been implementing in the current training block. So I'm 4 weeks in to a 16-week training block, quarter of the way through. It's going suspiciously smoothly, and one of the key things I implemented was handling my tempo work very differently to how I was handling it before. So in the last training block, I was doing tempo work at the start, but I'd kind of got it in my head that my pace needed to be a certain pace, and I was running the pace that I thought I should be, not the pace that I actually should have been running. So I was running all my tempo work way too fast, way too hard, and I was doing it way too long. Like my blocks of tempo were way too long for my ability at the time. So the key thing that I focused on this time round was building up going into the block before I started the training block properly. I was just getting in regular tempo work that was just a more sensible length. So in the previous block I was trying to do like 5 kilometers of tempo, and I even attempted to do like an 8 kilometer tempo run, which I didn't have the ability to do that at the time, so I don't know why I was trying to do those sorts of things. So this time around I just started off by doing 2 by 10 minute tempos. This is before the training block started, and just getting a feel for it, getting used to it. And when I'd done about 4 weeks of that, I moved to 20 minutes of tempo in my tempo runs, and that worked really well. So that enabled me to lay a really good foundation to start the training block, and then I've been able to implement some interval work. So I've been doing 2 weeks so far of interval work, and I've got another 2 weeks of interval work, and that's faster stuff. But it just means that my aerobic capacity is in a much better place because I was doing the tempo work beforehand to lay groundwork. It just in a much smarter way, so I wasn't already tired coming into the training block. I came into the training block feeling pretty fresh and ready to kind of put down solid training efforts. The other key specific difference is how I've been approaching my long runs. So building up into the training block, I wasn't running particularly high mileage. I took a bit of a break after Saddleworth just to have a mental reset, and then I built up really slowly, and kind of got back to a point where I was running 50 kilometers a week, which isn't that much, but it was good to be back at that point. But the main rule that I've implemented for my long runs is my long runs are never more than 30% of my weekly mileage. I've implemented this because in the previous training block for Saddleworth, I was finding that I was getting very specific niggles in my hips. My Achilles were really tight. I basically was on the edge of having Achilles tendinopathy. I was on the edge of several injuries, and I'm pretty sure a lot of that was down to my long runs being too long in comparison to my overall weekly mileage. So for me personally, spreading out the mileage a bit more and having my long runs never be more than 30% of my weekly mileage, and just spreading out the rest of the distance a bit more. So I'm doing more double runs just to spread the volume out a bit. That's really helped me. I feel really great. So when I was still running 50 kilometers a week, my long runs weren't very long. They weren't very long, and that was fine. And I've been able to build up really sustainably. And now that I'm back to running kind of a half marathon long run in training, I feel great. I did a half marathon yesterday, and half marathon training run yesterday, and it felt great. My legs felt amazing. I'm not really experiencing much in the way of significant fatigue or soreness, so I feel like I've approached that correctly for my body. At this point in the previous block, I was already feeling the injuries kind of hovering, I think, because I was just pushing those long runs I'd already been pushing the long runs too far for like weeks beforehand, before even getting to this point in the training block. So a lot of the elements here are just linking back into consistency, making sure I was doing those tempo runs at a solid effort rather than trying to just go absolutely all out and knacker myself. And I've been doing the same with my hill reps. I'm trying to be more conservative with those and do them more at sort of a threshold effort rather than just slaying myself on every rep, and making sure the long runs are building up really sustainably. It's been really consistent so far. I've not missed any runs, and by this time in the last block I had skipped runs, so there's already an improvement there, an improvement in the consistency. Big factor in why training is going so well is strength training, which I do all year round anyway, and I lift pretty heavy weights most of the year. That's a really key element in why my muscles aren't getting sore after runs as well. Like, my legs haven't been sore yet at all. I'm not even exaggerating. No soreness in my legs. I'm sure there will be a bit as my long runs get much longer, but at the minute, legs have felt great so far. I'm not really feeling that much fatigue in them, and a lot of that can be attributed to the strength training. I did a block of more powerlifting style strength training before I started my marathon training block. I think that has really helped in some ways, because I PR'd my deadlift and I matched my squat PR. So my legs are pretty strong right now, and that's really helping. I cannot stress how much runners should be doing heavy lifting in their strength training. It's so useful, and not just for running. If you're getting older, it really helps with your bone density, particularly if you're female. It staves off the risk of osteoarthritis. So everybody should be doing strength training, but it is really useful for runners, not just for running economy and your general efficiency and your form. It's really good for injury prevention. So get lifting. Nutrition is another thing I've been more consistent with. So I have basically set in fairly consistent meals for all my breakfasts and most of my lunches. My tea time varies a bit, so in the evening we'll have different meals throughout the week, and those will vary from week to week. But in terms of my breakfast and my lunch, those don't really vary that much. So I know what I'm putting in my body each day for the most part, and I'm making sure I'm getting quite a lot of protein. The breakfasts are pretty simple. I do porridge, usually up to 4 days a week, 3 or 4 days a week, and that porridge has got loads of like nuts and seeds in, and blueberries and apple and things. So I think it amounts to about 26 grams of protein per bowl, which is a good way to start the day. And then on the days that don't have porridge, I usually have a bagel with peanut butter and Marmite, which again, about 20 grams of protein. A good way to to get some protein in at the start of the day. And then once a week, I have a bit of a treat and I have poached eggs and avocado on toast. Similar situation with the lunches. I'm pretty consistent with what I have for lunch. I have ramen, again 3 or 4 times a week. That can vary a little bit in that sometimes I make it from scratch. It's not really proper ramen, but it's kind of quick throw together ramen, and sometimes I use instant noodles. That's kind of like, again, a bit of a treat meal because I have a favourite brand of instant noodles that I use, so I'll make the ramen with those noodles once or twice a week. And that, again, really nutrient dense meal. I use mussels and egg and tofu usually to go in there, so it's really high protein. It's got loads of nutrients in it because I put cabbage and stuff in there as well, so lots of good stuff. And then my other main lunch of the week is just kidney beans and chili sauce with rice, and I put nutritional yeast and spinach in there. Again, really simple but pretty nutrient dense, and it has all the protein and carbs that I need. That particular meal, I think, is nearly 30 grams of protein. It might be like 28 grams of protein, so we're trying to make sure we're getting a lot of it in and making sure we're getting lots of nutrients, and keeping it consistent like that just really helps. It helps me so much with meal planning, because if I know what I'm having each week, I don't really have to put any extra thought into it. So I definitely get the food and I get the calorie intake because I'm not having to think about it that much. I do end up having a protein shake most days, so that's another 30 grams of protein, and that's usually something I'll have after doing a lift. And there are things I need to get better at. I do need to take creatine before my lifts and before some of my runs. I need to get much better at doing that. So I'm not perfect yet at all. There's definitely room for improvement. In terms of what I have for tea, it's often there's a lot of beans involved. We have stew quite a lot at the minute because obviously it's winter, and I tend to make big stews up with root vegetables and beans and things. Bean chili is a really common one. We do fajitas, burritos, fish cakes are fairly regular, stuff like bolognese. So it's generally nothing overly complicated, so that will vary from week to week, but there are still set meals that I kind of rotate through, again, so that I don't have to think about it too much, and I'm not just getting overwhelmed with having to come up with new meals all the time, which really helps. And it does mean a lot of those meals I can batch cook as well, so stuff like curry, chili, stews, I can make a big pan up, and then that's at least 2 nights of meals sorted for me and my partner, and I don't have to think about cooking at all on at least 1 night of the week. And then sometimes you'll just have like baked potato and beans, which requires no thought at all, and again has all the stuff that I need. Back to things that are running related in terms of the schedule. When I was looking back at my training log for the last Saddleworth block, I noticed I was running every day at one point, which I don't think helped at all. So what I'm implementing at the minute is having a rest day each week where I'm not running. What I might start to bring into that rest day is like, because it's usually a Saturday is the rest day, and that's usually when I go and do a shift down at the gym. So I'll be at the gym for 4 hours, just kind of like watching the gym and making sure everybody's okay. And what I might do during that time is just spend 30 minutes on the watt bike, just spinning the legs really slowly. So nothing crazy. I think I might try that today, see how it feels, because it's still on a rest day. It can be good to just move the legs a little bit to keep kind of the blood flowing through the muscles, and then you don't feel so sluggish on the day after a rest day. So I might try that today and see how that goes. But what I'm basically making sure I implement is a day where I don't run at all every week. Sleep. I'm making sure I'm getting a lot of sleep. My schedule at the minute, because I'm trying out this whole freelance lifestyle, does enable me to stay in bed until 7 AM most days, which is helpful. That will change a little bit as my client base picks up. There will be a couple of days a week where I have to get up really early, but where I'm able to, I'm trying to make sure that I get in bed by 9, that I'm asleep by 10, half 10, and I don't get up until 7 on mornings where I'm able to do that. And that has helped a lot, just trying to get loads of sleep, which obviously not everybody can quite manage that sort of schedule. But if you're able to nap during the day, also really useful skill to kind of get locked in. I'm still learning how to nap. Successfully manage it some days, but a lot of the time I'm just finding even if I lay down and close my eyes for 30 minutes, that could be really, really helpful as well. So yeah, sleep and naps, super useful. Just having different expectations of myself has been a really key thing as well, and I've taken most of this year to kind of learn how to not beat myself up over things that don't really matter that much. I've talked about it in previous videos, so I've kind of been cementing that over the beginning of this training block. I'm learning how to still have big goals and lofty goals, but just accept that failure is a part of that learning process. So even if I do the 16-week training block, I get to Saddleworth, get to the start line, and I get through the race, but the race doesn't go as well as I want to, then that's not the end of the world. It's still a thing I can take and learn from, which is something I've been quite bad at in the past, and I'm learning how to be better at it. So that was just a quick look at mistakes I've made previously and how I'm not making those mistakes this time around. I feel like my training's in a really good spot at the minute. I feel really, really fit, and I do have some lofty goals for next year, so I feel in a better position than I thought I would be. So 2 months ago, I was really terrified of trying to aim to break my 5k PB next year, and actually now I think it's probably pretty feasible, which is a nice position to be in. I'm trying not to think too far ahead, but I do want to try and break my 5k, 10k and half marathon PBs next year, after Saddleworth obviously. And those did seem like daunting goals, and I think because I've been consistent with my training, and I'm being strict with myself, I think it's going to be pretty possible. So it's nice to be in that position and to feel really good in training, and a lot of it has just been about not focusing too much on having singular really good workouts. Like having one really, really good workout isn't going to make your training block, but having consistent good workouts and making sure every week you're showing up and doing the session is really what matters in the long term. So it's trying to get into that mentality as well of not really thinking like, oh, this workout needs to be amazing. It's more this workout needs to get done. Is more the mentality I've been trying to slot into. So there's been a lot of shifting my mindset, and I'm trying to structure and think about my training as though I'm a professional athlete. Obviously I'm not, but I feel like having that kind of mindset definitely helps in terms of setting goals and working towards them. If I'm structuring my training like that. Not everybody's going to want to do that because not everybody's sad and obsessed with exercise. But that's what I've chosen to do. I've chosen to try and push myself as far as I can make myself go, and I want to see where I can take myself in 10 years if I stick to a really consistent training plan year in, year out. All right, I hope some of that was really helpful for, one or two of you at least. Comment down below if you've got any other things that you've implemented into your training that you've found really changed the game for you, or if you've got anything that you're just struggling a bit and you're not really sure how to get past an issue you're encountering in training. Me or someone in the comments might be able to help you out with that. So comment down below, and thank you very much for watching. I will catch you in the next one.